up, Speedy's Garage gang? Welcome back to the Speedy's Garage YouTube channel. Had the shop cooling off for a few minutes. Should be ready to rock and roll. It's hot today. I've got a little upgrade for Go Man Go that I've been thinking about doing for quite a while, but I've sort of been putting it off. There were some questions that were floating around out there of how everything would work and would everything work. And I can't take credit for figuring all of that out. I got to thank a guy over on the Hellcat forum for posting up the part numbers and his experience. But now I'm going to be able to hopefully change my 2016 Hellcat into a 2022 Hellcat. I don't know if you realize this, but Dodge really has made very few changes to these cars since they came out in 2015. The body style is pretty much the same. You've got, of course, the wide body that's an option now. It's like $6 grand. That's a lot for the flares and stuff, I thought. The hood's a little bit different now. You get the two snorkels on them now instead of the vents like these have. But other than that and some wheel changes, the cars look pretty much the same. The interior is also almost exactly the same. And when I bought this car, you could only get a couple of different options. I'm going to do this from memory, but I think there were 3 or 4 options you could get. Brass monkey wheels were an option. The carbon stripes were an option. You could get a flat black hood as well as an option. Red seat belts, a sunroof, and I think a block heater, manual or automatic transmission. That's it. Everything else sort of came with the car. Leather was standard. You could get 2 different types of leather. Navigation was standard. I think, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Harman Kardon upgraded stereo with the subwoofer was standard. That may have been an option, I can't remember, but there weren't very many. Now when you go to order a Hellcat, almost everything's an option. I actually, and I'll post a picture of it here, I just went and spec'd out a 2022 Hellcat, not a red eye, a Hellcat just like I have, to match the options this one has. And I think the sticker on this one was 72 and change, maybe 72.2. I didn't pay that for it. This was in 2017 when they were kind of sitting around. So I got this one for like 60 grand, brand new. So it was a really good deal. And at 60 or 70,000, I think these cars are a good buy. I went and spec'd a 2022 model out to match what this one has, and it was over $83,000. That's getting on up there. And then if you add the red eye option, it went up to like $92,000, almost $93,000. That's a lot for a Hellcat. I mean, you're getting a lot of horsepower and stuff, but at least to me, that's a lot of money. A lot of money for a Dodge. So this one, it's been a good car, but I bought it for the $60K because of the motor and transmission. Still, in my opinion, not a $100,000 car. But you can make a small update to one of these older ones, and mine's a 2016. It has the Uconnect, I think, that came from Harman Kardon as part of the stereo system. Like I said, navigation was included. It's okay. It's a little slow in response. It seems like it takes a while to load the performance pages and stuff like that. And for a lot less than you could actually go and buy a whole new car for, you can actually order, and thanks again to the guy on the Hellcat forum, the parts to upgrade that, and it'll be just like having a 2022. I mean, that's really the only difference. The horsepower is almost exactly the same. Now, they say it's 10 horsepower difference or whatever over the years. I don't know about that. The stereo is really about the only thing that's new and really different on these cars. So I went and picked up one of these. There's the part number. And supposedly, at least on my 2016, this is a direct plug and play. You need a little USB module. I'll show you the part number for that. And I'll put the part numbers down in the description too. But this makes Apple CarPlay and all of that work. And some of you may remember I had a 2016 Camaro. It had CarPlay and everything included. Why Dodge didn't include it on the Hellcats, I'm not sure. But here's the main part of the unit. It's a whole new Uconnect module, or multimedia device, I think is what it's actually called in the parts description. But that's all plug and play. This allows Apple CarPlay to work, and that is also plug and play. So we're gonna get that installed. The primary tools we're gonna need are trim tools. I've got these plastic ones. I'm going to try to avoid using any metal ones. It'll just depend on how hard it is to get that dash panel out of there. I'm hoping with a little bit of prying, I'm going to grab these. Well, I'll probably grab this one. Grab those 3 to get started. Some people say to disconnect the battery. Because of all the electronics in these cars, I usually hate to do that. What I am going to do is pull the radio and media hub fuses, and in this car those fuses are number 37 for the radio and 38 for the little media hub, and you can kind of sort of look at where they are in relation to the diagram up at the top. And so on this, it's going to be, let's see, 37 is a 20 amp, 38 to 20 amp. So I've actually got my I don't remember what that is. I think that might be my line lock module. Yeah, I think that's what that is. That's the Burnbox HC plugged into one of those. So I'm going to pull that, set that aside, and then I'm going to also pull, hopefully you can see that 20 amp right there before I get started. And there's what the media hub looks like in my 2016 model. You'll notice it's got an auxiliary, 1 USB, and an SD. The new one has 2 USB and the auxiliary. And you can kind of see how it's in there. It's these little plastic push clips. They're just kind of spring loaded. I'm going to try to just work underneath here and get this to pop out. I think the service manual says you actually have to take the whole console out, but I'm not going to do that. This is going to be trickier for me to show you because of the angles and everything, but once I get it out, I'll tell you how I did it. And I went ahead and just slid my seat all the way back, so I've got access to this. I'm going to go after it with a little pry tool and probably a little flat blade screwdriver, and as soon as I can get those clips to release and pop this up, it should just slide right out. Alright, it took some finagling, and I did cover up my little 12-volt connector there with a microfiber towel just to protect it. I'm OCD. Took a couple of these, and I kind of started in the corner and just got it to where it would pop loose. You will hear it pop, don't worry about that. And once you get all 4 of them loose, it'll slide out. Now I can just unplug the 2 plugs and swap the new one in. I was looking at the 2 modules and I saw something kind of interesting. So this is the original one. Hopefully you can see that. You notice it's got 2 USB connections on it, but this one wasn't used, which I thought was interesting. The new one has ports for 2 USB connections, but only the gray one actually has a connector inside of it. This one's blank or empty. So I thought that was kind of a interesting difference between the 2. Other than that, they look identical. Got the new one plugged in. Make sure 1 is at the top and 2 is at the bottom, and then you just kind of have to fish it back in there. Hopefully you can see this, and then it's just lock it down in place. So there it is, ready to rock and roll. Now we can do the head unit. To get the multimedia unit out, we need to remove this trim, and it's one piece that goes all the way around behind the steering wheel, and it's got a bunch of these little spring clips, or like little metal clips that sort of bite onto a plastic piece, and they're sort of wedge shaped, and they snap into little parts inside the dash. They're going to be, based on my experience, they're going to be a little tricky to pop loose. Leverage is going to be your friend, but you have to be careful not to start to push too hard on the dash pad. I might go actually get another microfiber towel. I've got one to protect kind of the instrumentation switches and the steering wheel column and all of that, because when this pops off, I don't want it to scratch up anything or scratch the trim piece. But the idea is going to be to try to find where those little clips are and sort of come in behind like that and pry out and get it to release. So that's what I'm going to do. It felt like it was going to move pretty good there, but I am probably going to go get a microfiber towel to put around and try to get a better angle so you guys can just watch me take it out. Here's what the back of it looks like. I kind of wanted to show you where all the little push pins are, and I thought these would be metal, but actually they're plastic, which in my opinion is actually better. I don't know if you can buy these little things separately, but I've had metal ones in previous cars and they get fatigued over time. Hopefully I won't have this dash out very much, but you can see there's several around the radio. You'll notice this one, there's one missing, so I had to play a little game of operation using some long needle nose pliers, and I was able to go get it. It was just sitting right underneath where the bezel meets the radio, and then this just snaps back on here. So if you have some that pop off, back good as new. Here's where all of them are. Anywhere you see an orange tab. So like I said, you want to check these before you put this back in. Make sure they're all seated good, and mine are. The air vents are connected to the bezel. I had one air vent stay in the dash. Means we got to put that back on, and it just slots together pretty simply like Legos. All right, hopefully that was the hard part. We got that out of the way. The rest of it should be pretty straightforward. There are 4 Phillips head screws holding this original multimedia unit in place. I am using a magnetic bit. I'm also going to try to grab them. Go, put those right there. Now the radio, hopefully, oh yeah, slide right out. And we just disconnect all of these cables on the back. And this one's got a lever on it. Let's see. There we go. So to get that one open, you have to push in right there on the top of that tab. And now we got the radio out, we can put the new one in. I always like to compare old parts to new parts before I put them in. That way I don't get any surprises. Looks like the screw locations and the retaining tabs for the dash bezel are all in the same spot. Let's take a look at the back. Some of the plugs are in different places, but they're the same type of plug. So as long as I color match everything, I should be good to go. Okay, hopefully you can see this. I'm just gonna match up the plugs, starting with the big one. The right way. Yes, it is. Good. And they're color coded, pretty hard to mess that up. Some of them won't get used probably. Make sure they're all in there good. Then set that back in. Put the 4 screws in. I'm going to put the fuses back in, and then we're going to see what happens. I haven't put the dash bezel back in because I don't want to fool with that too much. It's not flimsy, but you don't want to take it in and out unless you have to. So now for the interesting part, and I've heard that these radios can take a minute to pick up all of the options the car has. So this is a 2016 model. The body control module, which is behind that panel, is another computer in the car that basically tells some of the other systems what options the car has, like heated and cooled seats, for example, that it's an SRT version and gets the performance pages, things like that. So I'm going to key this on, and we're going to see what happens. Ooh, that was quick, way faster than the old one. Okay. It is definitely more responsive. It does work. heated seats and all are grayed out, so that means it hasn't picked those up yet, but that's what those will look like. You notice it's blue. I suspect that will probably change to red. Wow, it is way faster. Nice. Yeah, this is way more responsive. So I guess really we just have to give it a minute to see if it picks up all the options the car has. Going to settings, I noticed something. If I go to display and set theme, you notice it only has Chrysler themes. But I do see down here at the bottom of the screen, it's like installing stuff. They're jar files, so it's unpacking them. So I'm hopeful that it's picking up all of the body control module or BCM settings, and that will flip over. Some people say it takes a while, so we may have to wait and check this tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. If I have to disconnect the battery, I will. I haven't done that yet. I thought maybe pulling the fuses would do it. I'll let you know how it goes. Well, you guys are seeing this real time as I'm seeing it, so it's been about a half hour. I took the key in the house so that it was away from the car. I want to see if it's picking up anything new. Still saying Chrysler. I may have to disconnect the battery. Still isn't showing my heated and cooled seats. Well, we'll see. Oh, SRT on the dash. First time I've seen that. So it is figured out it's an SRT vehicle at least. Alright, I set the alarm on it and left it for about a half hour. I'll try one more time. I haven't started it yet, so maybe I need to go for a test drive. So far I've just been keying it on. Let's see what happens now. Nope. Still all the Chrysler stuff. So it's been about an hour and a half. I'm going to take it for a drive and see what happens. I also noticed the stereo doesn't want to keep playing. Like when I first switch to a station, it plays for about 2 seconds, and that's it. So a couple of side effects. We'll go drive it around, see if it clears up. Well, I've been on about a 20-minute drive, and I'll show you this. It has figured out that it has heated and cooled seats, and I have tested it and all this works. So I got high, low, but you hear the stereo, like I push a button and the stereo pops on just for a second, so it hasn't figured that out yet. Display, theme, still hasn't figured that out yet either, but it's learning, so I'm gonna make an educated guess. And my educated guess is that the body control module has software in it, and when a new Uconnect multimedia module gets plugged in, it has to transmit that data over to the Uconnect, and the Uconnect actually has to install it. It's an educated guess. Maybe by the time we get back we'll have more features, but we'll just keep driving it and see how it goes. Navigation works, no problem. And it even gives you the turn-by-turn in the instrument cluster. So all of that works. And the backup camera also works. So it's been, I'm gonna say, right about 2.5 hours since I first powered it up. I've been on about a 45-minute drive, and during the drive the heated cooled seats showed up, all of the AC controls, everything like that works. It's probably better at this point for me to tell you what is not working yet. I'm hoping it shows up. The SRT button on the dash hasn't shown up yet. Nothing from there. I don't see anything under apps for SRT apps. I don't know what they're going to look like on this new unit, but I don't have any SRT applications yet. What's interesting though, a lot of these were blank. They just had like a U with 2 dots next to it. So a whole bunch of applications have shown up. Send and Go is new. Activate Go Services, Market, I'm not even sure what that does. App Manager, you know, you can see heated wheel, that works now. Like I showed you, the heated and cooled seats. All that works. Passenger one works. So all that's good. Like I said, about the only thing that hasn't shown up yet is the SRT pages, and the stereo is still acting kind of weird. So if I change, like that doesn't do anything. If I click the Bluetooth, it actually shows what is playing on Bluetooth, but I don't hear it through the speaker, so that hasn't shown up yet either. So at this point, all I know to do is just leave it. I mean, a lot of people have said it took theirs overnight before everything showed up. Usually when the heated and cooled seats came in, everything else I think tended to work, so mine's just taking a little bit longer for some reason. So I'm gonna cross my fingers and check back in a little while. All right, got back and I pulled the car in the shop, and I've left it for about an hour. So I'll go in here and check and see if it's ready. Hopefully by now it's picked up everything. It's been about 4 hours since I first plugged the radio in. Let's see what we get. All right. Shut the door so I don't hear the dinging. Fingers crossed. I'll turn it to run. Still blue. Ugh. Hopefully it's working. Let's go to apps. Oh, got SRT stuff. I didn't have those before. Well, that's working. Okay. It's picked up all of that, and again, I did not disconnect the battery. I don't use the shift light, but it's there. You'll notice it does top out at 6250 because this is a Hellcat. Actually, that's as high as it'll go. I'll turn that off. I don't even use it. Launch control. So that works, but it's stuck at 1000 RPM, and I had read that might be the case. I don't ever use launch control. It's never worked for me. And if I did, I'd probably keep it pretty low, like 1000 RPM anyway, so I don't really care about that, but keep that in mind. It actually does not go above the default of 1000 for some reason. Let's see, what else can we check? Let's look at the dashboard. Okay. Performance pages, let's look at that. Graphics are a lot nicer than what I had on my old one. Okay, all that's there. Gauges, this is important to me. Ooh, I like those. Boost pressure, air fuel ratio, intercooler coolant temp, and intake air temp. What happens if I hit this? Oh, it'll graph it. It'll graph it out. That is going to be handy. Like at the drag strip, I can sort of watch the intake air temp and sort of see what it's doing and see where it maxes out. That'll be nice. What's this do? No storage media installed. Oh, looks like it'll actually do a screenshot of the performance pages. That'll be kind of neat. So it looks like everything has loaded. The only thing I found is the launch control is stuck at 1000 RPM, if that's important to you. I wish I could rearrange these. I'd like to have intake air temp and air fuel ratio on page 1. I'll have to look into that, see if there's a way to do that. If you know, leave me a comment. G-force. There's all the engine stuff. You get your power, your torque, and your boost pressure. Oh, dyno. Sweet. It's actually going to, the dyno mode's going to work. I'm going to have to test that out. That is pretty cool. So, for about 30 minutes worth of install time, we'll call it, we basically have, you know, updated the infotainment, Uconnect, whatever you want to call it, multimedia module. And as far as I know, this will be like the same that's in a 2022. So we've taken a 2016 Hellcat, and the only real difference in them is this infotainment unit. So now we've got that updated, so it's like having a 2022 model for the most part. Now, let's see if we can do something about this blue. And I apologize that I'm poking around in here a little bit. This is all new for me because it's a brand new unit, so it's like having to learn a new operating system. Settings, display, set theme. Now they say Dodge. There we go. So now it's changed from the Chrysler blue to what I would expect, which is the Dodge red. Ooh, look at that. Got the Hellcat logo in the background. Ooh, that one's cool. I think, ooh, that's Demon. I think we're gonna go, I think it was this one. I think we're gonna stick with that. Yeah, now we're talking. And you remember before the radio did not work? Now it works. So that all kind of updated, and it took it about 4 hours. So I did lock the car using the button on the door handle and left it for about an hour after I went for that drive. And when I came back, everything's here. And I was inspecting the bezel, the dash bezel, and I noticed one of these clips was missing. It was actually hard to see. It didn't break. It just pulled off, like literally pulled away from the base of the bezel. Don't panic if that happens. It can. There's plenty of these to go around, so even if you accidentally have one come off, don't freak out. What I decided to do, and I use this stuff all the time, is I mixed up some JB Quick, 2-part epoxy, you half and half, mix them together with a little stick. And I put that back on, hopefully you can see that, with some JB Quick. And that repair is probably stronger than it was originally. So that's how I fixed the one that came off. If I couldn't have fixed it, no big deal. There's a bunch of those clips going around. But since I could, I did. And the other thing I'll caution you about is this trim, this silver trim, is not plastic. That is actually molded aluminum, and it's thin. So when you're prying the bezel off, be real careful not to dent that aluminum, because it'd be hard to straighten it back out, and you would for sure notice it against the black dash. So you notice the pry tools, they were sort of had a V or a fork to them. That was designed so you could come in behind these clips and get your leverage and just pop it up. So that's what you want to try to do. So make sure you reference, you know, this video and where those clips are, because that's going to be your money, is get behind these little tabs with the V of your pry tool and just using the leverage to pop them out. Well, folks, this is why you wait to put the dash back in until you know everything works. I was troubleshooting those USB ports, and I was like, it's weird that auxiliary is working but USB is not. So I decided just to take a look behind the radio, and look at there, I forgot to connect the USB cable. So there it is. I'll bet you $100 that's my problem. There we go. The phone is now charging. That was our problem. And now I'm getting asked about Android Auto. Now that I know everything works, the last step is just going to be carefully reinstalling the bezel. Goes in a lot easier than it came out, I'll tell you that. There we go. Now I can take this off. I may have found one gauge that doesn't work, and it's the intercooler coolant temp. For some reason, it's not reading. I thought it may have just been because I hadn't started the car, but I've been out driving around and that is not showing up. However, it does show up on the center stack. So I know it's reading. There was a point in time where Dodge had done a programming change and they had flip-flopped, I think it was intake air temperature and intercooler coolant temp, and that may have something to do with it. I don't really ever use that anyway. I mainly look at intake air temperature unless I'm using cool down mode at the track, so I'll just have to do that on the center stack unless I can find a solution to that. And I picked up the parts to do this from Freeland, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram in Antioch, Tennessee. If you decide to get them from there, your local, see Jack at Freeland Dodge. Also, always get my parts either from there or from Andy over at eastcoastmoparts.com. Both have great prices and great customer service, so I would check those guys out if you decide to make the swap. Well, that's it. And overall, it was a relatively easy upgrade. Again, I can't take credit for it. I just followed some instructions that a guy on the Hellcat forum posted. His name is CCSO77, so thanks for putting up the detail and the part numbers. The reason I followed that was because I knew it would be, or expected it to be plug and play. This is a 2016 A8 automatic Hellcat, and feedback had been, if you buy these specific part numbers, and I'll list them below in the description, you can just plug everything in and it will all sort of work together. If you've got a 2015, unfortunately Dodge makes electronic changes quite often. I don't know why, but in 2015 it's a different system, and in order for this to work, you actually have to also buy a new body control module, and then probably take it to the dealer and have it programmed to your VIN. So keep that in mind if you've got a 2015. If you've got a manual, again, a couple of steps you might have to take. 2016 automatic, I put it right in and it was plug and play, 30 minutes. Hardest part was getting the bezel out. Like I said, just try to stay close to those tabs with your prongs on your dash trim tool and use the leverage to pop those out, and be careful if you break one, you can fix it like I showed you. But all in all, a really good update. Since these cars really haven't changed that much, or if at all, since 2015, it's like having a brand new car practically for the cost of the head unit. They're not super cheap, but much cheaper than buying a new car, obviously. Really happy with the upgrade. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. It's at Speedies_garage, as well as the website, www.speediesgarage.net, and hopefully I will see you out there.